Welcome to Sunflower Journeys. I'm Dave Kendall. Out here in the Flint Hills, it's easy to appreciate the value of our natural heritage. On today's program, we're going to explore some of the ways humans have adapted to life here on the land.
Thank you everyone for coming out and sharing this occasion with the Kansas Land Trust and Mr. Rod Moyer, whose ranch you are now on. This is the ranch headquarters here. It was a nice, convenient place to hold this event, and we sure did get a great crowd. So thank you everyone for coming out. My name is Jason Fazell. I'm with the Kansas Land Trust, one of the people that gets to interact directly with the landowners when they first give us a call and they're kicking around this idea. With that, I'll invite up Mr. Rod Moyer to give us a welcome to the ranch. Thank you.
As he approaches retirement, this lifelong Kansas rancher has been considering how he could best preserve his ranch land for future generations. He's ended up negotiating a conservation easement with the Kansas Land Trust.
It's a deep privilege of mine to be able to welcome all of you here. This is a wonderful day for Moyer Ranch and for the Flint Hills of Kansas, and I'm glad to see that so many of you were able to join us today. Easement will restrict any type of commercial or residential development on this ranch. There won't be any housing development or any type of commercial development any place here forever. This Kansas Land Trust group will be able to oversee this ranch forever and maintain good conservation practices for whoever is managing or owning this ranch. While my family is interested in seeing that their heritage and this land be preserved for future generations, they're not interested in operating the ranch. So I needed a vehicle which would preserve the prairie and preserve a lot of the conservation measures which we had established here.
In our next story, we hear about an alliance that has been recently formed to preserve the tallgrass prairie and the ranching traditions associated with it.
Well, my granddad came to Kansas with the family wagon train and arrived on December 7th, 1873. And no doubt saw tallgrass prairie just like we're standing in here. And it's an extraordinary grass, unequaled anywhere in the world. It was never plowed because there are rocks just 10 to 12 inches below the surface. But those same rocks give us a drought-proof type environment because those rocks soak up the moisture, and all of these tallgrass prairies, the tall grasses, the roots go down 12, 15 feet. So they can pull that moisture back up from very deep in the ground, even through those rocks. So those rocks in the Flint Hills actually end up being a giant sponge. And that sponge then gives back the water and allows us to have tallgrass prairies even in dry times. Grasses in this region are extraordinary.
Based in Kansas City, the Hallmark Hall of Fame has now broadcast more than 200 programs in this prestigious series, highly acclaimed for the quality of its presentations. The third episode of Sarah Plain and Tall, subtitled Winter's End, is scheduled to air in late November of 1999. As filming neared its completion, the woman who brought Sarah to life expressed a bit of nostalgia for the place where she'd come for all three productions.
That's right. Third time to the same place, and I shall miss it. I feel very nostalgic that this is the last time we'll be here. But there's something about this landscape that really feeds my soul. And my daughter and I drove the Council Grove on our Sunday and saw that beautiful statue of the pioneer woman. It was just a beautiful, beautiful drive. Coming back in the evening, they were burning off the fields. So, you know, it's a very, very strong image, and we basically are a mosaic, a fabric of all the images that we allow, you know, to affect us. And so I take Kansas away with me.
Born in New England on the island of Martha's Vineyard, Anthony Benton Good attended art school in Boston. After graduating, he decided to return to Kansas, where he'd lived during his teenage years.
Came back here to Kansas and just saw the light on the native grass in the fall, and the way the sunlight just kind of reflects off the land and melts into it. In contrast to the cold blue light of New England, the warm golden light of Kansas was just what I was looking for. And I said, this is it, I've got to paint here.
Anthony and his family live in the hills of southeastern Marshall County on a small farm that Thomas Hart Benton, Anthony's grandfather, purchased in the early 70s.
We looked, and this farm was for sale. And so my granddad came out, he looked it over, he made some sketches, he went back to his studio and he painted a picture of the barnyard with the old silo in there. Sold the painting to a fellow in Kansas City, and then used the proceeds from the sale of the painting to buy the land. So he bought this farm with a painting of it.
It is America's most controversial religion. Some, in fact, say it's not a religion at all. For 40 years, the Church of Scientology has flourished in this country, while under constant attack from the government, the media, and the psychiatric profession.
He continues to travel all over the world for his various productions, but he flies down to his ranch in southeastern Kansas whenever he can find the time.
I'd like to spend more time. Right now, I'm still producing heavily, traveling heavily, and my company happens to be in Chicago, but I get here more and more. I'll tell you exactly one reason why I love it, and you'll have to bear with me as we pause. Let's say 5 to 6 seconds, and you will be able to hear the reason. End case. I rest my case. We don't hear a plane. We don't hear a turnpike going by. It is as quiet and as peaceful and as meditative a spot, I think, as I have been. And for that reason, and the beauty, I have sort of found a spiritual center in my elderly years. I have been in Nepal, and I've thought about this ranch and had to get back here. It's kind of a connection with the land. It's the same feeling that you feel in Africa. It's like you can stand barefoot on the soil and feel the pulse of the earth beneath your feet. And that's why I think the Indians had the right idea. They worshiped the sky and the earth. They worshiped the nighttime as much as the day. And looking around, they had everything. They had game in the valleys, and they had buffalo riding these hills.
When the last wagon rolls along and fades into the west and cuts a trail of progress through a singing skylark's nest, when the last woodland creature lifts her head the sweep of wind along the grass bows down to destiny. When the last bright star has fallen, Lord, who will comfort me?
We were prepared for rain and we were prepared for wind, but we couldn't do anything that would be dangerous, and that involves lightning and or tornadoes. And they were around that day, as they always will be around if we want to keep this in June. And we want to keep this in June if we can, and that's part of this whole adventure idea. I mean, that's why we told people that there would be a rain date on Sunday if we couldn't do it. And rain date was really a lightning date.
You want to know how hot it really is?
Okay, thank you. This is Kay Lauer and Mary Harwood. This is Dylan Hunter.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, you guys, oh, it's so good to have them here. Die.
This is the first time you guys saw
Tony, this is Tony Misaki. This is Dylan Hunter. Kay Lauer, Will Hunter, Stephanie Hunter. Hi. Mary Harwood. Tony's come down from Wabaunsee County to scout this out to see if they want this madness up there. Yeah, and this is my granddaughter. Yeah. Okay, so every single person there wanted this to be something worthwhile for their lives. Worth the effort, worth the money, worth standing in lines, worth the dust, worth the dirt, worth the risk of the dreaded chiggers, you know, etc. I mean, the whole thing is completely co-created by every single person, animal, blade of grass, breath of air, note of music, horse's tail, everything. The whole thing was all of a piece, just like I guess everything is.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for the whole day to be great.
Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.
Here's what Kirk Meacham, writing in the Kansas State Historical Society's Kansas Historical Quarterly in 1949, just after it had become the state song, he wrote, "Somehow, out on the lonely prairie, an obscure poet and an unknown singer created an artistic paradox, a perfect blending of man's nostalgia for home and his dreams of some faraway and fairer land. This ambivalent masterpiece has turned out to be the ideal expression of the love which Kansans feel for their unpredictable state." Good one.
Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.
Glad you could stop by to see a clip from KTWU. It's your input that helps make public television great. Consider a donation. Browse over to ktwu.org right now.